Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. So this one, I have decided I'm going to kind of do a rapid fire review of every book that I have read so far in 2025, excluding rereads. And I actually have done several rereads this year. I think I have a little Excel spreadsheet of my books here so I can keep track of them, because otherwise I will 100% forget because I'm so bad at tracking them. But I have actually done 12 rereads so far this year. So those will not be included because I have read them in the past, but I will be doing all the books that I read for the first time in 2025. I'm going to be going through these quickly because there are, I think, 28 books that I'm going to be talking about. So let's go ahead. We're going to jump into it. I'm going to start with the one book that I DNF'd. I started reading the deal. I think I got just maybe 50 to 75 pages into this. This is a college hockey romance, and I was just not into it. I don't really like that kind of a little bit overbearing, kind of frat boy type vibe where they're the good guy, even though their friends are not so great guys. I just wasn't into that. I wasn't liking the male main character in this, and it just didn't really feel like the vibe of a type of romance that I would enjoy, so I DNF'd it. I have two books on this list that I do not own. The first one is Mislaid and Parts Half Known by Shauna McGuire. This one is the most recent installment in her Wayward Children series. This is a portal fantasy series about children that go through doors into portal worlds and then come back to our world. And in this one, I really liked the setting of it. I liked the atmosphere and the characters. I really liked the themes that they were diving into about the cycle of abuse and not treating people poorly just because you were treated poorly. And overall, this was a really good one for me in this series. It's kind of been hit or miss, but I really enjoyed this one a lot, and I will definitely continue on with the series. The other book that I don't own is Letters to Half Moon Street. I loved this book. This is a novella that is set in London in a fantasy world. There is magic, but it is not a epic fantasy world by any means. We are following a character who moves to London to kind of keep his family's affairs in order, and then he meets someone. They have a romance. It is told completely in letter form. I thought that our main character was really cute and endearing. I liked our main male character. He was very charming and he was kind and sweet, and I just really overall had such a great time with this book. It was surprising to me. I didn't know what to expect, but I really love this one. Next, we have Why We Sleep. I think this is the only nonfiction book on this list. This is by Matthew Walker, and this is a book all about sleep. It kind of goes into what happens within the brain, neurotransmitters, different things that affect our sleep, and how our sleep affects our body and just kind of like our lives, our mood, our mental health, all of those things. I love this book, but man, did I feel called out. I felt like it just was talking to me and telling me, hey, we know how bad you are at this. Let's step up your game a little bit. But overall, I had such a great time with this one. Honestly, I read this book in a day. I absolutely loved it, and I think it's such an important thing for people to read because I think sleep is so much more important than we kind of give it credit for sometimes, and we neglect it. And yeah, if you want to feel called out about your poor sleep practices, give this one a try. It will do it. It will do that for you. Next one I have is Reckless. This is the sequel to Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I did not like this one as much as the first one. I felt like it was very predictable. It followed a very common YA plot line. I did not enjoy the chemistry between the main characters. I didn't really feel it at all. I felt like it was very repetitive, and I just was not invested in this story. I didn't really like this one. I might continue on with the series just depending on how my niece feels about the next one, but this was definitely a miss for me. I read The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay during one of my readathons, and I went into this one not really knowing what to expect. This is set at a cabin in the middle of nowhere, and it is a family there with their young daughter, a couple and their young daughter, and these four strangers show up and tell them that they have to choose one of them who is going to die in order to save the world. I did not really love this one. I just wasn't super invested in the mystery of it after a while, and it just kind of seemed to drag a little bit, which is surprising because of how short it is. So this one was okay, but it was not my favorite. I also read Daughter of Havenglade by H.C. Harrington. This was sent to me by my niece. This one was a cute read. This definitely has the feel of a kind of almost incomplete story to it. It had a lot of very plot convenience things happen in it, and I just don't know how well developed this story is, honestly. It has a cute premise to it, but overall it just wasn't well executed in my opinion. Next, I have Sunshine by Robin McKinley. This one is definitely different than I expected because I have read several Robin McKinley books in the past, and this has a much different vibe than her other ones. I loved it though. This is a story of a girl who lives in a world where supernatural creatures like shifters and vampires are real. We are very aware of them, and she gets kidnapped by some vampires and is put into a situation where she is held hostage with this other vampire. And I found it so interesting. I really liked our main character's attitude towards things. She was very funny. I thought she had a lot of wit to her, and it was just really entertaining to read this book. It was definitely a different take on the vampire story, and I absolutely loved it. I would definitely recommend this one. It is a bit darker than I expected it to be though, so if you've read other Robin McKinley books, go into this one knowing it is much more adult than the other ones I have read. Next, I have Emberclaw. I don't have the book because I lent it to my mom, but I do have the cover. This is the sequel to... That's a great question. What is this a sequel to? Dragonfall. Gosh, thank you, Robin Hobb, for putting it into your review because I could not remember it. I actually really enjoyed this book. I liked the first one pretty well. I was invested. This is a world where dragons once used to live in the same world as humans, but somehow they were exiled to another realm almost, and there's a portal between them. And we have the last male dragon who has come through the portal to the human world and is trying to figure out how to get his people back because they're going to die on the other side of that portal. I liked the characters in this one a lot. I really enjoyed the plot of it, and I think it was really an interesting world, interesting characters, and I really liked getting into the motivations of these characters in this book. I feel like there's so much more to explore within this world, particularly the magic system. I don't think we got a lot into that, and I would love to do that if she writes more in this world. I think it's a she. It is a she. But overall, this was a hit for me. I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend this duology. It is just a duology. Both books are fairly short, so yeah, I really enjoyed this. Another second book in a duology, The Rebel Witch by Christian Ciccarelli. This one was definitely a miss for me. I thought that the first one, The Crimson Moth, was fairly interesting. We are following a witch who is living in a world where they kill all witches, and she has a thing going on with a witch hunter. I, in general, do not enjoy romances where one of the characters fundamentally hates what the other person is. It is something that I just can never really get on board with, and I don't see it ever being something that I would romantically root for, and that was definitely present in this one. Plus, I think that there was a lot of things that didn't make sense. A lot of the choices that the characters were making were just so not something that would actually work out, and I just did not enjoy how the things seemed to work out when it was really badly done by them. Like, I just don't think that the plot of this was very well executed, and I thought that the ending was so painfully predictable as well. So this one was a miss for me. I didn't really enjoy it. Plus, I'm not really big into books that focus so strongly on the romance and make that the huge center of focus when it's like almost an apocalyptic world ending, like people are going to die, there's going to be genocide situation going on, and all we can hear about is how hot you think the other person is. Like, it's not for me. Another one that was a miss and I am so disappointed in is Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. This is an adult romantasy series. We are following a girl who is trained to be a healer in a world where normal humans are kind of lower class citizens, and then you have these like kind of demigods who are the leaders of this world, and she is just the most insufferable main character ever. I cannot stand her. She is so annoying. Like, I just can't do it. She makes some of the stupidest decisions, and somehow she gets away with it, kind of similarly to the other book. But also, I don't feel the vibes between the two main characters. He is pretty much just into her because she pushes back against him and doesn't just like grovel at his feet, but she is actually very much overstepping bounds of like what would be allowed in all reality. And it's just a very uncomfortable situation to like be in the middle. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. And again, the ending was so predictable. Not the very, very ending epilogue part, I will give it that. But the way it ended, I was like, yeah, saw that coming about 10 million miles off. So I don't know if I'll continue with this series. I hear that it gets better, but the main character doesn't get less annoying. So we'll see. But look at the cover. It's so pretty. Like, I am so sad because I love the covers of this series. They're gorgeous. Next one, we're going to move back into books that were good for me. And this is Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranek. Gosh, I might have said that really wrong. But this one is a YA fantasy series where we have this magical, almost sentient forest, and this girl goes into it because she has magical powers and she wants them to be taken away because this is something that is not going to be like accepted in the world that she lives in. She's a witch and they don't like witches. So she goes in and asks the kind of like god of the forest to take her powers away, and he makes a deal with her that she stays with him for a while and then he will grant her wish. I loved this book. Actually, this was so fun. I love the atmosphere of it. The magical sentient forest is always an atmosphere setting that I'm going to enjoy in books. I loved our main character, honestly. I think she was a good mix of being smart and cautious while also being like brave and willing to sacrifice and take risks. I think that our main male love interest was really interesting. He was an intriguing character, had a really interesting backstory, and I just overall had such a good time with this book. I think it was really well written, and I am really excited to read more from this author. Next one on this list will come as a surprise to no one, and that is Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, the 5th and final book in the Stormlight Archive, first arc. I liked this book. I really did enjoy it. I think overall, most of the book I had a really good time with. I think we learned so much about the world, and so many of the things that we figured out were really interesting. I was very much engaged in a lot of it. I will say that this has a lot of POVs in it, and there was one in particular that I just didn't care about, and another one that I felt was really drug out and did not, like, I didn't feel the progression in it, and it just kind of felt stagnant in that place. I didn't love the ending. Not the ending situation we were in, but if you know, you know, I hated that. I thought it was so bad and I was so disappointed in it, and I really wish that I wasn't, because I absolutely love the Stormlight Archive and I feel like that one part just bugged me a lot, but not enough to dislike this book. There was so much about it that I loved. There was one, like, of the quests in this book that was my absolute favorite. I absolutely love those characters, and I can't wait to see where we go with the next arc, but it's going to be a really long time. Next, we have Free the Darkness, the first book in the King's Dark Tidings series by Kel Cade. This book follows a man who is trained from a young child to be some type of assassin-esque person, and we don't really know why he was trained that way, but then he is accidentally set loose on the world and he doesn't really know his purpose. It is entertaining. I don't think that the humor in this is completely my style in all places. Some of it hits and some of it doesn't for me. I think this definitely has the trope of the character that is so ultimately smarter and more powerful and just better at everything else than everyone else. And I think that I like it to an extent, but some places it got taken a little far, in my opinion. I was not really invested in the romance that's in here. It felt really awkward and uncomfortable for me, so I don't know if that's something that's going to be a problem moving forward, but overall I did really enjoy this. It was fast-paced, there was a lot going on, there was a lot of plot, and I am intrigued by the mystery of it, so I definitely will continue with this series. Another one that was a miss, and I'm so sad, is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I absolutely love this author. I've loved everything I've read from her, but this one just was not it for me. I think that the story was really interesting. It's a retelling of Macbeth told from Lady Macbeth's perspective, and obviously we get a different story-ish because it is told from her side, but overall it felt a little bit exhausting to me to be in the place of this person whose pretty much entire purpose is to avoid being abused, and I can understand why, right? Like, I don't think it was unrealistic, and I think it really did portray that situation well. It just felt mentally and emotionally exhausting in a bad way, being in that situation for me. Like, I don't know, others might disagree and might have different feelings about it for sure, but for me, that just was not something that I wanted to like be in for an entire book. But I will say the writing was really good, and the plot and the way the story went was quite intriguing. Next, we have Foul Days by Genevieve Dimova. Okay, that's a really hard font to read. Genevieve Dimova. I think I got it right. And this is set in a world where there is a wall that separates these two cities. And one of them is kind of like in a happy place, right? They're safe. They're taken care of, they're well off. And then the other one is attacked periodically by these monsters, and they have to kind of protect themselves from it. And the witches are really important to that. We are following a main character who is a witch, and she is trying to avoid this like big bad guy. I think he's called the Zme. He's like the czar of monsters or something along those lines. And I just find our main character to be very annoying. She makes a huge deal about the fact that she needs to get out of that city to avoid him. And then as soon as she gets out of there, she is immediately trying to get back the thing that she bargained away in order to get out of there. It makes absolutely no sense. Plus, she makes so many stupid decisions while also being so condescending about other people who just like don't know because they're from the good city. Like they have no idea how to like navigate this bad city because they're so spoiled. Girl, you're making all the same stupid decisions, actually worse ones than those people. And she would go into how she's so traumatized by these terrible situations that she feels responsible for and then like repeat them. So anyway, I did not love this book. I think that the setting was really interesting and it had some potential, but I just did not like the main character or the execution. Next, we have a book that I absolutely loved and just bawled over, and it's one of the best things that I've read this year, and that is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is the newest installment in the kind of Hunger Games world. We are following Hamish's Games, the 50th Hunger Games, and it is so devastating. I absolutely love this book so much. I love so many of the characters in here, and I personally really loved the tie-ins that we saw that kind of we'll see come more to fruition in the later books. I know some people thought that was fan service, but I really thought it was setting a good foundation for how we got to where we were at the Hunger Games, the original trilogy. I loved the characters. I loved the story. I thought that she did a really good job of showing just the brutality and the lack of compassion and humanity that is in this world where they are just like essentially sacrificing these children for their entertainment. And it was just so well done. I think Suzanne Collins is so masterful at this. I would love more in the Hunger Games world, but I just don't know if I could take anymore because it's devastating every time. Like I bawl. My eyes are just so tired after reading these books. Another first book in a series that I read is Dark Fever by Karen Marie Moning. This is the first book in her Fever series, I guess. We're following a girl whose sister was killed in Ireland, and she is going there to try to figure out what happened to her because she has a very cryptic voicemail from her sister. This main character was very frustrating. I don't like the main character who has no idea what's going on, but still thinks that she should be like completely involved in all the decision making and that she should almost be like a full partner in any decisions that are being made when she has absolutely no clue what's going on. And then she makes really stupid decisions because she's left out on some things and kind of gets butthurt about it. That is one of the most annoying tropes to me. I did think it was a fairly interesting time. I was intrigued by the mystery, but it wasn't like super gripping for me. I think it's an entertaining premise, and depending on like what other people feel about this as they continue reading it, because it was a Patreon buddy read, I might continue on with it, but it's not high on my priority list and I didn't really love it. Next, I have the first book in the Seven Waters trilogy by Juliette Merlier, Daughter of the Forest. I absolutely loved this book. This is set in a kind of magical historical Ireland, and we are following a girl who has 7 brothers, and they are turned into swans, and she has to complete these tasks in order to turn them back into humans. I cried in this book too. It was so emotional. I was so invested in this story. I really loved our main character and the growth that we saw in her throughout this story. And the writing was absolutely gorgeous. The setting, the atmosphere of it was so good. I love this book. I love her writing style. Yes, this was definitely a hit for me. I would highly recommend it. I also read the second book in that series, Son of the Shadows. This one is following like the next generation. So I think all 3 books will follow like down the generations. And this one was really good as well. I loved our main character in this. I think Juliette Marillier writes really strong female main characters who have a soft side as well. And I just enjoyed the story in this one. I think it did a really good job of like connecting us to the previous book, so we still had that feeling of connection to it within the series, but also making it kind of like its own story as well. We are like progressing in this, figuring out what's going on with the prophecy and all of that, but I really love her writing style. I think she does a really good job of writing strong characters and these relationships that you get really emotionally invested in. I also read the entire Chronicles of Prydain series by Lloyd Alexander. This is the series that contains The Black Cauldron, which was the inspiration for the movie The Black Cauldron, and this was such a classic fantasy story. I really enjoyed these books. These are middle grade. It is very young. It is this coming of age story of our main character, and we go from him being like essentially a little bit in the way and like not very useful in the first book to really growing into himself, who he is as a person, and accepting like his place and how he can most benefit the world and like become the person he wants to be by the end of it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. It has a lot of the classic fantasy tropes of like found family, magical objects, quests, all these things, like the big bad guy. There are some really interesting redemptions of bad guys in here, which I was not necessarily expecting, but overall this was such a fun time. I really enjoyed it. There's one trope that I absolutely hate that was used in this series, but I won't go into it for spoilers. But other than that, this was just a great classic middle grade fantasy series. I also read the Divine Rivals duology. Does it have a name? I don't really know. It's Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. These books were interesting. It's set in kind of a World War I-esque fantasy world where there are gods, and this main character has a typewriter and she's kind of like sending letters to this other unknown person who also has a typewriter, and they're like connected through that. I enjoyed the first book. I really enjoyed the beginning of the first book when we were in this letter writing phase. We had this like slow burn type romance going on, and I really liked the atmosphere and the vibes at that point, but it definitely went in a direction I was not expecting. We get into a lot more of the war part of it, and I didn't love where we went with that. The first book was pretty good. I really enjoyed it a lot, and the second book was quite disappointing. I do think that this world is interesting though, and I think Rebecca Ross is writing another book within this world, and I would be interested to read it because I think we're going to be reading more like from the gods perspective, which I think could be really interesting. So yeah, definitely will read that one, but this duology was definitely a disappointment. First one was pretty good. Second one was just not really it for me. And the final book on this list was Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb. This is the final book in her Realm of the Elderlings. I adore this series. I adore all of Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings, and this was the ending to that. I feel like the ending to a series this epic and so good has so much pressure on it, but I really liked what she did with it. I thought it was just an excellent wrap up to everything that we went through in this series with these characters. It was devastating. I was crying. I obviously can't say anything about it because it would be spoilers, but I love this series. I love these characters. I think this was an amazing ending to the series, and I am so sad that there is no more in this world and there is no more to read from these characters, but I absolutely love this so much. I would highly, highly, highly recommend The Realm of the Elderlings to literally anyone who likes fantasy and likes character-focused books, because the character work in these books is unmatched, and I can't get enough of them. I need to do a reread sometime, but it's like a 16-book series or something like that, so it's gonna be a while. Okay, those are the books that I have read so far in 2025. Let me know which of these ones you feel like maybe I should give the series a try if I was a little bit hesitant and on the fence. Let me know how your reading is going so far in 2025, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.